guys. I don't think I could have asked for a better introduction than that. Does anybody else have Corbin Houston for a class? Yes, it's me, right? Okay, so my name is Doug Fair. I'm a biology major with a Spanish minor and a specialization in sales. Don't ask me how I got that, but it's been a very interesting 4 years, and it's going to be sad to be leaving in a couple of weeks. I'm here to talk to you about self-awareness, through research and personal media. Our brains are made of over 100 billion cells, comprising 100 trillion connections. To put that into perspective, the number of synapses in the human brain is greater than the amount of stars in our Milky Way galaxy. We're incredibly complex beings. Seems like sometimes we know just enough about the space up here. That's the space that we know about out there. So, why is that exactly? Why don't we each have a way to measure our brains, to understand ourselves? The quantified self has already given us Fitbits and sleep trackers, heart rate monitors, all of these things, but we don't have any way to actually quantify ourselves. Now, self-knowledge has always been seen as one of the more important things in life. Know thyself. It's been around for thousands of years. But a lot of people have trouble finding themselves. Suicide is the third leading cause of death in the millennial generation. Job dissatisfaction is the highest it's ever been in history. This isn't surprising when you consider the fact that 64% of us cannot accurately identify our emotions. Now, is this because we're inherently human, or are there other things that are playing a factor? For example, social media. Social media has always been seen as kind of the champion of modern technology. We all have like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and a lot of us use that every day. But what we don't know is that it can be detrimental to our self-worth. There's a study done by the University of Michigan that showed that Facebook actually undermines that self-worth that we have. And actually, essentially, social media makes us miserable. And why is this? It's because we're constantly comparing ourselves to others and kind of focusing our happiness externally. Now, this problem and others can be solved in different ways, but it wouldn't be through just improving social media, but rather by using personal media. A medium through which we can become self-aware and redefine what it means to be self-centered. Now, I did 3 years of research at the University of Alabama, Biological Sciences Department, my biology degree. And one thing that I learned through that experience was that if you want to learn about anything, you have to observe it, record your findings, and analyze the results. And that's what personal media lets you do. It lets you put yourself underneath the microscope and observe your behavior and learn from it. Essentially, treating yourself like the subject of your own research study. Now, Dr. Usley mentioned that class, and something that he always taught us was to try to find a problem in the world and fix it. And so that's something that I believe that personal media does. And this mentality of treating ourselves like the subject of our own research study is something that I try to put inside of an app. So the app is called Me. By the way, this isn't coded, it's just a prototype for now. But the app is called Me. And Me takes all of your input and compiles it and puts it into a readable, graphical fashion. So it's based off the 5 basic emotions. And let's say, for instance, right now, I'm happy because it's almost the weekend. Or I'm stressed because I'm giving a talk in front of 200. Let's go with stress. So what it does is it asks you 5 basic questions to get to the bottom of that emotion and your behavior surrounding it. So, for instance, let's say that I want to look at a previous response, or let's say I want to type in something novel. Let's say finals is kind of stressing me out. So the next question that it asks me is, okay, what sort of thoughts cause that emotion? The internal factors that might have made that emotion come about. So let's think. Let's say, okay, biochemistry is one of the finals I'm going to have, so I think it's going to be very difficult. I'll go with that for now. How did I respond to that stress? It's getting to the bottom of my behavior. Let's say sometimes I'm very productive with stress, or sometimes I really need a break. So I might take a nap or listen to Taylor Swift. So why did I respond that way? Let's think about how our behavior is a result of this emotion and kind of analyze why we're doing what we do. So let's say in this instance, I'll just point to. So the last question is, how does that affect those around you? This adds in a social awareness factor. We're going to talk about this a little bit. But that's it. It's just 5 quick questions that get to the bottom of your emotion. Now, this is all very simple. And the interface is just something that kind of sounds nice, but what does that give you? Well, what Mean does is it compiles all of your inputs and puts them into a graphical fashion. So I can look at my levels through the week, or look at my levels through maybe the month. And I can see the correlations between all of my emotions and how they affect one another and what triggers might cause them. So let's look into stress, for example. I'll see that there's a couple stressors and triggers that have caused me to be stressed, such as a deadline or tests. And I can also look at how my behavior resulted from those triggers. So that would be in the form of the calendar log. And that's essentially, me. So what does this give you? And especially the fact that you can't buy this, why is this essential, and why is this going to teach you something? Well, it helps you adopt that mentality of taking a third-party objective view and observing yourself and learning from your own behavior. So creating this app, I started this kind of idea, I guess, in August, and it's been a long time. I've learned a lot of things along the road, and I want to just share 3 with you here today. So since we've been talking about scientists, being scientists with ourselves, let's talk about science. There are 2 conflicting regions of the brain when we're talking about science. When we're talking about emotions. First is the limbic system. It's this inner portion of our brain that is the house of our emotions and the driving point of our behavior. And then there's the neocortex, right over here. It's the neural portion of our brain, and that's the house of our rational thinking. Now, the problem with these 2 systems is that they have difficulty communicating. It's because the limbic system can't process language. This is one of the reasons why, for instance, if you're buying a car, and you're out there on the lot, the car salesman is telling you about how you can go 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, and we're going to give you an awesome deal, and it's got a sunroof. Yeah. You're telling him, well, I understand the facts and the figures, but it just doesn't feel right. And I can't explain it. That's your limbic system working. So trying to control your emotions is like trying to control your limbic system. Essentially, like trying to argue with someone who doesn't speak your own language. It's just pretty much impossible. But what you can do by utilizing this mentality is observe your limbic system and your resulting behavior and learn from it. Now, why is this important? Essentially, so what? Well, the mind is a muscle, and this is the workout. By taking this mentality, you're not only becoming more self-aware, but you're actually growing the neurons between your prefrontal cortex and your limbic system, essentially helping you identify emotions better when they're arising and modulate your behavior as a result, leading to better benefits for yourself and also in your interactions with others. Which brings me to the second lesson. Moods are contagious. Picture this. You're in line at a Target, and obviously the cashier that you're about to go to is just having a horrible day. She's been really, probably been there for hours and is just mad. But you end up going up to her and smiling, and she smiles back. Now, why is that? That's mirror neurons at work. Essentially, she sees you smiling and smiles back, and what that does is actually changes physiologically inside the cashier's brain. They see, okay, so I'm smiling, that must mean I'm happy. And it actually changes their mood ever so slightly. So what does that mean for us? Well, we can use our self-awareness and apply it to our social awareness. And that means that we can modulate our behaviors to positively influence other people around us. And essentially, we have more influence over those factors than we originally think. But again, so what? Well, if you take self-awareness and you combine it with social awareness, you have emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is very important for our success. For example, 90% of high achievers have high emotional intelligence. This was done in a survey of over 500,000 people. Those high achievers made $29,000 more per year than people with low emotional intelligence. And job recruiters selected people with high emotional intelligence 71% of the time over people with over people with high IQ. Makes you think. So, we talked a lot about emotions, and I know it's normally sort of a stigma to talk about your emotions with people, but they really are important. Emotions are what get us out of bed in the morning. It's literally the reason why we listen to the music that we do, hang out with people that we hang out with, and choose the job that we end up choosing. But they're largely misunderstood. Emotions are not inherently positive or negative, but our reactions to them can be. So, what do we do with this knowledge? Well, if you remember those graphs, we can obviously identify these emotional triggers. And through the time that we're observing ourselves, through the months and the weeks and the days that we're looking at ourselves, we can become more self-aware and develop an action plan in which we minimize those negative stressors and triggers and maximize the ones that help us reach our full potential and positively influence society around us. And we do this through acknowledging one central point. That I cannot influence or choose what happens to me. And I can't even decide on how I feel about that. But I can choose how I respond. Now, we talked about the mystery of the mind at the beginning of my talk. But this understanding is obviously not uncovering everything. We're just uncovering a little bit about our emotions and getting a little insight into who we are. But through this self-awareness, we're able to learn about ourselves. And we're able to uncover a little bit of the mystery of who we are and what makes me me. Thank you.